This is wild as the Sacramento Kings are once again getting disrespected entering this NBA season. Yes, it was an ugly preseason. Yes, there's some kinks that still have to be ironed out, specifically with new players coming in, getting used to their roles, getting used to their new teammates, but the Sacramento Kings, without a doubt, improved their roster over the course of the offseason. They have young players that are continuously going to improve and step up entering this year. And the NBA analysts, the people projecting everything in regards to expectations for the season, are expecting a decline for Sacramento, and it makes zero sense. So we're going to break down what people are saying about the team, why they are getting overlooked, and what the Sacramento Kings can actually do over the course of this season. Because yes, the Western Conference is a bloodbath. There are a lot of good teams and a lot of good teams coming back in the mix, but there are some openings for Sacramento to really shock a lot of people over the course of this season, even though they probably shouldn't be, because the roster was improved. But before we dive into any of that, folks, again, if you guys are part of the 84% that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, it means the world to me if you guys could hit that sub button. As you know, on our goal of 500 subscribers, we're getting there day by day. I appreciate all the support and everyone that's checking out the channel, but definitely if you want to stay up to date, especially the season just around the corner, days away, right, make sure you guys hit that sub button. But let's dive into what's been going on, because without a doubt, it was an ugly preseason for Sacramento. There was definitely some positives. There were definitely some good takeaways, watching the games in terms of players playing well, some developments happening. But when you go 0-5 in preseason, people are going to overreact. And that's just kind of how things go. And some people in the fan base, the morale is down, despite the fact over the offseason, Sacramento made a ton of good moves. And yes, there are still holes that have to be filled, for sure, but they did fill some different holes that could come through internal development and through just star player acquisition. So we'll dive into all that in this video, but first we're going to take a look at what people are saying, because again, Sacramento right now is projected this is the Ringers rankings, 18th out there in the NBA. So again, just ahead of the LA Clippers, just ahead of the San Antonio Spurs, right? The Clippers, I'm shocked that Sacramento's kind of in the same boat as the Clippers. I think the Clippers, without Kawhi Leonard especially, are just going to be an absolutely garbage team, but that's just my opinion. And the San Antonio Spurs, yes, they're going to be improved with Victor Wembanyama taking another year up. Stephon Castle looks good, but really their main acquisitions were, bringing in Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes, as we've seen, who, again, are good vets, steady vets, but I don't think it's going to be ultra game-changing down there for San Antonio. Stephon Castle is going to be really good. But the Kings are essentially put into the mix with the New Orleans Pelicans, the Golden State Warriors, a few of these teams, and teams like the Rockets and stuff have been jumped the Sacramento Kings here now at this point. And frankly, yes, the Warriors, the Pelicans, the Kings, they all have some questions. They all have some things that could be answered, but I think the Kings should be a tier above these different teams, because if you look at sort of the standings for last season, what the Kings were, able to do last year, just in terms of the team, I mean, they were better than the Golden State Warriors, and the Golden State Warriors lost Klay Thompson. They did make some other moves around the edges and stuff, but basically, Sacramento was better than or I guess had the same record as Golden State, got ranked ahead of them, but basically, Sacramento ended up adding DeMar DeRozan this season. They have Keegan Murray who can take a step up. Keon Ellis is a guy that no one in the NBA is really talking about here now at this point. So, again, the Golden State Warriors being there is something that I'm a little confused by. Again, the Clippers are going to take a massive step back. The New Orleans Pelicans just every year seem to be underwhelming. They don't even have a center right now, right? Like, we're talking about the New Orleans Pelicans, who, yes, DeJounte Murray is a great basketball player, nice acquisition, but they're going into the season with Herb Jones playing that center position. I mean, they face off against the Sacramento Kings. Domantas Sabonis is absolutely going to take their lunch money, is absolutely going to score every single time he wants out there on the basketball court. So, again, I think the Kings should be a little bit over those types of teams there that the Ringers sort of projections put out. And then ESPN ended up ranking the Sacramento Kings at a very similar spot. Essentially, when we last saw them 1 year after making the playoffs for the first time in 16 years. The Kings got bounced in the second round of the play-in. After that loss, Sacramento knew it needed to make some changes, so the team brought in DeMar DeRozan, sent Harrison Barnes and Chris Duarte to Chicago, or Harrison Barnes to San Antonio, and Chris Duarte to Chicago. This is the first big move the Kings made since bringing in Mike Brown as the head coach, and while they took steps back last season, they know they can regain momentum they had in 2023 and be in a highly competitive Western Conference. And, the things were said correctly out there in terms of what this article will say, but still, again, ranked in that 17th spot, out there in the mix with a team that doesn't have a center, a team that star players are aging to a great extent. And then we look at kind of, what else is happening out there in terms of, the standings in the Western Conference, right? Yes, the LA Lakers, they brought in Dalton Connect, but didn't make any crazy additions, right? The acquisition of DeMar DeRozan is completely being overlooked. The Sacramento Kings upgraded Harrison Barnes to DeMar DeRozan, right? A guy that is actually an elite scorer, a guy that can actually go out there and get buckets in the NBA. Frankly, that is something that is, I don't understand how you don't factor that into the actual rotations to things that are going on with this Kings team entering this season. So I think the Kings should be able to take the jump over the Lakers, over the Warriors, over the New Orleans Pelicans here now at this point. And then again, you look out there in the mix of the Western Conference sort of playoff picture there. The Clippers, they're going to be in the basement of the Western Conference. That's just my opinion without Kawhi Leonard, without Paul George, right? They're just going to be led by James Harden here now at this point, and things are just going to be messy. And then the Suns, yes, the Suns definitely improved, rounding out their roster, bringing in Ryan Dunn, Tyus Jones. They're going to be a tough out if they end up staying healthy. But health is a big question with the Phoenix Suns, so I'm not sold on them guaranteed making a crazy run this season if Bradley Beal, KD, and especially those two guys can stay healthy. And the Mavericks, Timberwolves, I get the Nuggets, the Thunder, at least at this point being ahead of the Kings. I mean, you could have questions about Jamal Murray there, in terms of, hey, he looks really bad in the Olympics. He looked really bad in preseason, so maybe they take a step back. But the Kings should be up there in the mix with these different teams. And then we had both ESPN as well as The Ringer kind of put them out there in the mid-lower tier of the Western Conference. And then you also have the over-under for 65 wins for the Sacramento Kings team this season. And we look at how good they were last year, right? 46 wins for the Kings last season. Sure, the Western Conference may have improved a little bit, and I think the actual division of Sacramento is kind of actually regressed. The Warriors, Clippers, as well as Lakers, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking that the addition of DeMar DeRozan has only improved this team by half a game. If you're going over, right, you bet the under, it's basically a plateau season. You're telling me that bringing in DeMar DeRozan, you're telling me that a year ahead of improvement of Keegan Murray and Keon Ellis being out there fully into the rotation, fully ingrained in this team this upcoming season, and then hopefully having some health with Huerter, with Malik Monk, with different guys out there on the roster. You're telling me that this team is going to be regress, is going to be in that sort of middle of the pack. I expect this team to win more games this season. I expect, and maybe it's an overreaction to preseason, with these rankings and stuff coming out, but I look at this roster for Sacramento, right? Like Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, DeMar DeRozan, and Keegan Murray. That top four, and then Keon Ellis to kind of round out this team. That's one of the more elite starting fives in the entire NBA. And then if we can just if the Kings can come out here and just get healthy, have Malik Monk out there in the mix, Kevin Huerter out there in the mix, Trey Lyles able to do some things out there on the court. There has been some rumblings that maybe Devin Carter will be able to play at some point this season. Again, that's speculation here now at this point, but again, an interesting rookie that's going to be a key part of the Kings for the future. I won't factor him into the discussions right now, but Dougie McBuckets being able to come out and get some points. Alex Len, again, people are concerned about his preseason performance, and just general importance, but he's a solid passer, can do different things out there on the basketball court. If you're telling me that this team is just going to get worse this season, I don't buy it. I don't buy it here right now. I think this team, the expectations are kind of understated, and this Kings team is kind of in a position to shock a ton of people. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about the Sacramento Kings, how this team is going to be able to do this season. I want to know your thoughts, your predictions, because it seems like, especially after preseason, that's kind of how things go, right? In terms of people aren't super high after seeing all the losses in preseason. Let me know what you guys think. You guys the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.